As he did every Thursday at exactly 4 o'clock for the past 7 years, 6 months, and 3 weeks, Enchester Motley sat down at his laptop and typed, "I am an imaginary person." Just like that, emboldened and all. As he had with each time before this, he stared at the phrase until his contacts got too dry to see and the words no longer said anything. Then, he closed his eyes hard, breathed in deeply, and held the breath as he counted, silently in sync with a steady tap of index finger against the delete key 25 times, which was both the number of letters in the phrase and his current age, though the latter fact had no weight in the situation, save for mere coincidence. As soon as this was done, he could open his eyes again and exhale. If he opened the order of these events is very important. You see, if he exhaled before opening his eyes, the ritual was moot, and he assumed he'd have to start all over, though he really didn't know for sure and had no reason to believe he would ever do so before opening them. 24, 25, he thought, as the world reappeared and he began to breathe out. "I am an imaginary person," leapt from the screen and into his throat, stopping his breath somewhere between lungs and larynx, causing him to spit out a muffled noise, similar to that of the brake pedal thudding against the floorboard of a car when the lines have been cut. For a moment, he could not understand what was wrong with the picture in front of him, though he knew something was very, terribly wrong. He blinked his eyes vigorously, but each time they opened, it was there, screaming at him in all its outrageous, bold glory. "I'm an imaginary person!" He sat quite still, in the throes of an almost expected shock. You see, somehow he felt he always knew that this would happen. Each time he opened his eyes, he snubbed out a simple moment of fear, no less heart-stopping than the feeling that some incur upon thinking of death. This was the only moment that Anchester could honestly admit to feeling afraid. The thought of dying did nothing for him, as it hadn't for as long as he could remember living. However, because of this fear, he had never stopped to think of what he might actually do if the moment actually came, and now found himself at something of a loss. "I am an imaginary person," continued to stare at him, unapologetically, and he thought, somewhat expectantly, very real sentence on a brightly lit screen. He stared back without moving, until suddenly, almost as though he were attempting to surprise even himself, he lifted a hand that had been hanging limply at his side and struck the delete key once, very hard, dropping it back down almost immediately. For some reason, he found he held his breath during the moment. Nothing happened. The period seemed to expand and contract, still occupying space on a mostly pure page, breathing in, out, in, 18, 17, 16, "Stop it," he said firmly, startled back to reality by the sound of his own voice. He glanced sheepishly about the apartment, relieved to find that, as usual, he was alone, save for his 3 houseplants. His roommate, Craig, who he met through Craigslist, was out, as he always seemed to be. You know, probably with one of his ever-rotating girlfriends or at the gym. "I am an imaginary person." Placing both hands on his knees and leaning forward, Anchester breathed in deeply inside. His pupils shrinking to the size of pinheads as he inched his face closer and closer to the screen. By the time his nose was touching it, His irises almost disappeared entirely into his charcoal gray eyes. He continued to sit like this until it occurred to him that something might be wrong with some of the other keys as well. So he leaned back and began to try each one of them calmly, pressing their plastic forms gingerly into the pad beneath, sending signals through the circuits to produce the expected and desired results. He started at the top. Grave accent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, minus, equals, tab, Q, W, E, R, T, Y, U, I, O, P, open bracket, close brackets, backslash, A, S, D, F, J, K, G, H, J, L, J, K, L, semi, apostrophe, return, C, X, C, B, B, N, M, comma, period, forward slash. To be sure, he had skipped the caps lock key the first time around. He repeated the whole thing again with it engaged. So, grave accent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, minus, equals, tab, Q, W, E, R, T, Y, U, I, O, P, open bracket, close bracket, backslash, A, S, D, F, G, H, J, K, L, semi, apostrophe, return, Z, X, C, B, B, N, M, comma, period, forward slash. But then, he had to check the shift key. Tilde, exclamation point, at, number sign, dollar sign, percent sign, caret, ampersand, asterisk, open and close parentheses, underscore, plus, curly braces, open and close, vertical bar, semicolon, quotation marks, less than, greater than, question mark. Though he knew it was fruitless, he tried again to delete. Nothing happened. The phrase was still there, and now so was the evidence of his attempt to understand and fix the malfunction. Defeated, Manchester did something that he had not done in 7 years, 6 months, and 3 weeks. He saved a document. Untitled. After carefully quitting each open application and shutting down his computer, he wiped the screen and keyboard thoroughly and packed it away. Untitled, huh? Oh well. What's in a name anyway? He thought, and laughed, for he thought the reference to be equally uninspired. Then, Manchester did something that he did not do except through sheer necessity. He gathered his belongings, stopping before he grabbed the handle of the door to make sure that he had his wallet and keys for a second time. No one heard him singing, "A rose is a rose is a rose," as he stepped into the waning sunshine of a San Francisco summer. He had grown silent as soon as he heard the heavy iron gate shut behind him.